All right, so I've been thinking about a bad shot and a good miss, and part of it is setting standards for young players. Part of it is, and really most of it, is developing their confidence and willingness to shoot the ball, and then molding their decision making and their shot technique from there. So, what I mean by this, I'm in a great position because I'm coaching people brand new to lacrosse. They don't know anything about lacrosse. Again, many of our players have never even seen it before. So you have some kids I noticed this past fall season who were just successful in other sports. They're just athletes. Some of them were athletes and they were 7 years old. Some of them were really good athletes and they were 12 or 13. It's like there were some kids all in between who just stood out as, I call it leaning forward, meaning they're not waiting for anything to happen. They're going and making things happen. Part of it is that those kids took plenty of bad shots and they threw the ball out of bounds a fair amount, or threw the ball to kids who couldn't catch as well. So they definitely made some mistakes, but they were leaning forward. So the mistakes that they made were fast and you could tell what they were thinking about doing. And so it was easy to make a tweak like, hey, next time take one or two more steps. Next time have your stick in triple threat position so that you're ready to make that pass, rather than getting past your defender, drawing a double, and then now you're not ready to move the ball, and then the ball slips out as you throw it and goes out of bounds. Little things like that you're able to tweak because they're already doing the stuff. Comparing that to the players who were new and were timid and weren't really sure of what they were doing, weren't very confident. Those players, I was less likely to coach in real time after they made a bad play. So one thing that I'll always celebrate at any level of lacrosse, if a player, especially a newer player, draws a defender and then sees that a teammate is open and then throws the ball at all, makes an attempt to throw the ball because they see an open teammate. It doesn't matter if it's a bad pass, doesn't matter if it goes out of bounds or gets intercepted. That's something to celebrate, because even just that is a skill and is a milestone in your development as an athlete. Who is the open man? Like something I'll say sometimes when a player draws a double team is who's open, who's open. So it's not asking if someone is open. I know that someone's open because I can see it, but I'm trying to get them to notice if there's two defenders on me and each of us has one defender, one person on my team has to be open. So it's getting them prepared to draw that double team and look for whoever's open. And then now we're playing lacrosse. So for the athletes who aren't as confident, I'm celebrating those invisible plays that I call them, where like they show up on the scoreboard, they don't lead to scoring opportunities, but just doing the right thing, just according to, I guess, lacrosse theory, or just playing the game of lacrosse, whether or not it works out. So this comes up a lot in shooting, where players who aren't very confident might shoot it. They might try to roll the ball into the goal. They might shoot while they're on the side of the goal. They shoot right-handed on the left wing, and the ball just bounces off the back of the net. Or some of them might shoot from midfield because their team is down by a few points and they want to, just get a quick point really quickly. Some of them will just run into a double team and then try to shoot it anyway, and it bounces off a kid's leg or something. So in how I see it is a kid who's shooting the ball sees something on the field that they are seeing as an opportunity to shoot the ball. So it's almost never don't shoot it. They need to shoot it. They need to know, just primarily, you have to shoot in order to score points. So you can't only shoot when you have a perfect opportunity. When you're a bunch of new lacrosse players, you might never have a perfect opportunity. Um, and even if you do, you still need to know how to make the decision to shoot. I think that's a skill in itself. So players who aren't as good or aren't as confident, kids who aren't as athletic, anytime they shoot the ball, hey, I see what you're looking for there. I see why you took that shot. Um, and the instruction part of it after that, sometimes I will just save that. Because I don't want their takeaway from that interaction to be, I shot the ball and that was wrong. I want their takeaway to be, I shot the ball, coach said, good job, I see what you're looking at. And just that's it. I think they're more likely to shoot the ball more after that. And then as they take a higher volume of shots, now we can look and say, okay, 3 times in a row you shot with your right hand when you were on the left wing and it hit the pipe or the back of the net every single time. So now maybe we can take a few steps upfield. Now I'm able to actually coach and instruct them on how to play the game. But first, they need to make a decision to shoot the ball. They need to make a decision to inject themselves into the game and not just stand and wait. So something I will say, if a player is just standing and removing themselves and there's a ground ball scrum, I'll say, hey, name, hey, Jim, get involved. One thing that I yell, no matter what age group, get involved, because if a kid is learning from Coach Josh that they're doing something wrong, I want them to learn that standing and removing themselves from the play for fear of making a mistake is wrong. I'd rather them make a mistake all the time and at least do something. That's at least energy that can be directed. That they're giving me clay to mold by getting involved and messing up, but they're removing themselves because they don't want to mess up, and it's actually preventing them from ever learning anything. Like sometimes a new teenage driver, like it's in like every family sitcom, but sometimes a new teenage driver is going to back the car up and hit a trash can or run over the mailbox or whatever. So the only way to avoid doing that is either be good at driving right away or to never drive. And so, in general, we're not talking about gentle coaching. It's not really about that. It's more, I just want the players, regardless of ability, I want the players who are more confident to shoot the ball and then learn through shooting, because they're going to shoot anyway, how to take better shots, how to get teammates involved, blah, blah, blah. I want players who are shy and never would inject themselves into any situation to call their own shot and take a shot, whether it goes in or not, or make that pass, whether it's a good pass or not, and be celebrated for that. The goal is to get those players up to the level where they're just taking a higher volume of shots or chances or seizing a higher volume of opportunities. Then we get them on the level of the confident players, and now we can start refining skills. So I tell everybody who knows me knows that I'm always talking about rising tide lifts all boats. That's an example of what I'm trying to do. And sometimes that makes for, I just made a video about like having like a messy, not messy, but kind of like an unfinished or not super precise like set of instructions that I give to players. Part of it is that. Part of it is just getting them to be unsure and then act. And so once I have a team full of players who are going to act when they're unsure instead of shrink and minimize themselves, now we can coach and we can mold those players so that they're not only acting, but they're taking the correct action. As a youth coach, this can be very frustrating, again, because we obviously know the game. We're devoted to this game. We watch, and I spend all of my time when I'm not working watching lacrosse, stringing sticks, creating content. I think about lacrosse. I watch hockey and I see lacrosse. I watch basketball, I see lacrosse. I watch a one-on-one matchup between a receiver and a cornerback, and I see lacrosse. So seeing someone just not do it correctly, part of you wants to jump out and say, like, hey, those things are just not correct. But again, think when you're new, when you're young, what exactly is that going to teach you? If you learn that you're just not doing it correctly, and it's like, well, man, I thought I was doing some stuff. Turns out I don't know anything. Then it takes a certain type of kid to respond to that. But I'm going to work hard and learn plays and all. Like, it'd be great if every kid were Kobe Bryant, but many kids aren't. Many kids just need to be, allowed to kind of bounce off of the rails, and then eventually you provide a little bit of steering, but they need to be bouncing off first. They need to lean forward. They need to move. They need to talk. They need to do all the things that I tell them that great lacrosse players do that don't involve catching, throwing, and shooting. When they do all that stuff, when a kid is standing in the right spot and then they drops a pass, hey, great job being in the right spot. Catching that pass will come, but you're standing in the right spot. You might be standing in the right spot and the ball might bounce off your chest and then you pick it up and score because you're in the right spot. If you're in the wrong spot and you're really good at catching and throwing, doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to score. So confident players, we're molding, we're using their confidence and they're leaning forward to mold and teach them the game. Younger players are trying to get them to the point where they're confident, where they are leaning forward and taking chances, and then we can mold them all. And then, again, the rising tide lifts all boats. Eventually we have a team of more confident players. Whether or not they're good at lacrosse, they're at least leaning forward. They understand what a shot opportunity looks like. They're identifying a 2-on-1. They're securing the end line when their teammate shoots the ball. Once we have a team full of players who's doing that, then we're okay. Teaching them the X's and O's from there is simple, but I think that's something that as youth coaches, definitely early in my coaching career, I wanted to teach man up offense and 3v2s right away. And I didn't really understand that some kids just will just freeze up. And so when we go to games, it's like, what? We talked about this during practice. There's an underlying issue there. There's a lack of confidence. Your best players are just going to take more chances and not necessarily get better. And then your players who aren't good are just going to not take any chances. And then you have 10 guys on the field and you have 4 of them who just aren't doing anything. And that's tough. So, I'll finish by saying to youth coaches, your work in choosing to teach kids is valuable. They learn a lot from sports that are going to help them in life. But again, part of it is just putting in the effort, trying to do something, and then you can teach them what's right and what's wrong. But they need to be leaning forward first. So my encouragement to all the youth coaches, just encourage your players, young and old, regardless of skill level, to lean forward, and then they can make mistakes and kind of learn from there.